Hello everyone. Gonna try to do some voiceover, some covering of some of the content to help you guys out as you go through all of this. Hopefully you were watching this before you take the first little checkpoint quiz. Let's see what we can do. I'll do the best job that I can. So now that we have added most of this land here, we are looking at the same time, the country was having a lot of problems with how is this going to work out sectionally? Because we've already seen this, we did this back with the bingo card, a clear divide between North and South on a lot of issues. So you're seeing where our goals, that you can explain the views of the North and South and how those influence laws and actions of people, that you can explain key events and how that impacted both regions. And you can look at all of these and see how it led to the Civil War. So we've already spent a lot of time on this. Okay, with like the differences between economy of the North and South. This is our big focus. We've looked at all these different viewpoints that divided up sectionally, how each section looked at things differently. We then kind of look at some similar things, but it's a little bit differently. The infrastructure, just a different word for how things were set up, the economies, industrial versus agricultural, the need for slaves. And that kind of fits into, should we follow a strong federal government or should individual states be able to do what they want? We're seeing that debate now with how to reopen states under COVID, or states having to compete with each other for PPEs and things like that. It's been crazy. Very real world examples of this same debate. And the impact of, great, we get Oregon, we get Texas, we get all these regions, but them becoming part of the country created more of a debate. We'll eventually get to Lincoln's election. So we have to be careful because there was a balance of power issue. We know that we have the Senate and the House of Representatives in Congress. Well, the North is always going to win in the House of Representatives. Why? Because they have more people. And the South is only counting 3 out of every 5 slaves because of 3/5 compromise, if you can remember back that far. So the North is always going to win. They're getting the immigrants. They're just going to have more people. So to keep things balanced and to have the South not lose out on all these governmental decisions, they need to have more votes or more slave states in the Senate so they can cancel out what the North does through the House of Representatives. It's a very difficult balance here. So it was like the ability to block the laws. So as we add different regions, it's going to cause a debate. Now, I decided to use a self-portrait here. Of course, my arms, you guys know that. But really, obviously, that's not me. That was the debate. Is the North going to control the Senate and the House, or is it going to be the South, or are we going to be able to compromise? Well, we know that once new land was added, it leads to a lot of these complications. And the first big complication, this is in 1819, 1820, was Missouri. Okay, so Missouri is the first area out of Louisiana Purchase that has enough people, your 60,000, to become a state. Okay, logical. They want to become a slave state. Well, that would give the South more power in the Senate. The North's not going to like that, so they try to compromise it out. And what ends up happening is Maine had enough people to become a state. They just hadn't applied for it. So now each of those becomes a state, and we've evened it out. Now they're going to draw this line thing that we're going to come into here in a moment. But let me visually do this a little bit better. So this first yellow line is Missouri. They, in Louisiana Purchase, going to be a slave state. To balance it out, you add Maine. You got your free state. So nobody should be too upset so far. The other thing that they do, this line doesn't go the whole way, but in this Louisiana territory, they kind of look at it and go, okay, we're going to draw a line here. Any new states that come out of this area will be slave. Any new states that come out of this area will be free. Now, I know what you're saying. Most of you are going, wow, the North gets the better end of the deal. Not necessarily, because there's not a lot of people that live up here. There's not a lot of states that can send people over there to become new states. Down here, If you're in this Arkansas territory, you got Missouri, Tennessee, you got a lot of slave states really close that could send people, and you'd have that unbalance of power again. The good thing, just like school rules, just like rules at home, rules are made to be broken, but in this case, rewritten. So this compromise works actually for 30 years. Works as in keeps us from shooting at each other. But it at least keeps the country together, and hopefully cooler heads can work things out. So the Missouri Compromise is Missouri slave, Maine free. We equal everything out. We draw this line, and it's just meant to balance out that one region. I'm not going to focus too much on the line for you guys this year. Don't freak out about it because the line's going to go bye-bye in a couple of days. You'll get what I'm saying. So we're going to skip the Wilmot Proviso. You'll figure it out. 30 years later, 1848, gold. And you know about the gold rush. You've done a lot with that. Well, California wants to be a free state. So they're debating again. Are we going to just extend that Missouri Compromise line? Are we going to give popular sovereignty a chance and let the people vote on whether they're free or slave? Do we trust the people? Is there reliable collection of votes? Do people even live in the region, or are they just walking around throughout the West? You know, it's really tough to determine. So what they determine is the Compromise of 1850 is going to have 4 parts. Okay, and we're going to go through each of these a little bit differently. But California is going to be a free state. So that does give the North a little bit more there. And you're like, whoa, that's not really fair. You know, there's something else that's coming up that's going to shift this whole thing. In the Mexican Cession area, you're going to use popular sovereignty. So let me, while this is going on, I've also got a visual. So I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. Bear with me here. And hopefully you guys will be able to see this. Okay. And we'll see how it works here. But on the map, we're going to take California, and it's going to be free. Definitely in favor of the North. The Mexican Cession, this whole area, once there's enough people for it to become a state, one of these areas, the people reign. The people will have the power to go, we're a free state, we're a slave state. That's not going to come into play too much at this time period, but it's still important to know. Slave trade gets banned in D.C. Don't stress on that one. But it seems like, okay, you're banning the slave trade in favor of North. This could go either way, big time North. So what's the South getting that they're willing to agree to this? The Fugitive Slave Act. And that is an extremely important topic. So we have kept the country together with the Missouri Compromise. We're trying to keep the country together 30 years later once we add all this other land. But it's going to get really, 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 really tough. So let's see what we've got. Okay. Fugitive Slave Act. So let me make sure that the visual, that the camera is still in good shape here. Let me kind of go back. You're not as worried about seeing my face, and just kind of making do with what I can, guys, in my isolation room here. Bear with me. So the Fugitive Slave Act is a big, big deal. It requires every American citizen must help catch runaway slaves. You have to participate in slavery. You have no choice. If you do not participate in slavery, if you do not participate in helping catch these runaway slaves, you could be fined $1,000 or jailed. So now we are, as a national law, it applies to every state, even free states. If you don't participate in slavery, you're breaking national law. It's making abolition illegal in the entire United States. I mean, controversy. This is a huge deal. This is one of the most controversial laws in American history. And it's going to cause massive problems. Some other interesting things, and this is always something fascinating that we spend a lot of time in class on. The court system was set up in favor of the South. So if a black person was captured and considered, hey, we think you're a slave, some people might have papers that say, no, you're free. tear up, gone, no proof. I know that sounds horrible, but that's how it would work sometimes. Not every time, but how is a black person at this time in America really going to be able to prove themselves? There's going to be free blacks that are thrown in and accused of being runaway slaves. This is going to be a big deal. But these courts are held, okay? So, A, you don't get a jury trial like every other American because of your skin color. B, judges get $10 for sending you into slavery and only $5 for keeping you free. So our justice system that's supposed to be blind, that we're not supposed to look at the person, we're supposed to follow the letter of the law. You wouldn't want Mrs. Lawn or Mr. Brown looking at the school handbook and going, that's the rule, but they look weird, so let's just expel them. You wouldn't want that. Well, this is an incentive. This would be like an incentive for Mr. Brown, like he gets paid extra to suspend you. Could there be more suspensions in the building? Yeah. We're going to assume, as we know, that Mr. Brown's a good person and Mrs. Long. But once you put a money factor in there, you're questioning the integrity and the honesty of people. And that's a problem. Obviously, and this is the kind of thing, I believe the numbers are like 85 to 90% at least are put into slavery. And it was a lot of free blacks that were put into slavery because of this law. This is going to be highly controversial, even though abolition itself wasn't illegal, like trying to end slavery. You still have abolitionists. This is actually going to make more abolitionists, but it's going to make it difficult. And the Underground Railroad was illegal. You're stealing property from the South. But this takes it the next step and truly makes it illegal. Last slide, then I'm done. Reactions are the kind of things that you're used to. And this whole slideshow is already shared with you on Friday, like May 1st at task 7 or something for this week. But obviously the North is upset. They feel like they're being, being forced to be part of slavery. The irony is it's the South who had been arguing it's a state's right to have slaves. And the North was always like, follow the federal laws. Well, now you have the North going, we should be able to have our state's right to ignore this law. So it's kind of like when we talked about loose and strict interpretation, we're flipping the rules to benefit our needs and arguing a different viewpoint. This is a major win for the South. It helps them all across the board. It's forcing the North to participate. And this is going to lead to a lot of problems. So I know this probably went longer than I wanted and I moved quick. There is a different video that is shared with you already on Friday, May 1st, that kind of does this, but without the screen, and it's all dry erase boards to help you out. So hopefully this helped. I had fun going over. It's nice to kind of teach again. It's not as good as in the classroom, I know, but please share with me, send me emails if there's a better way to do this. Sorry guys, I'm still in isolation, stuck in my bedroom, so there's only so many ways I can do this. But if there's something you'd like me to do differently, like draw on the big dry erase board in between or have music to go along, I don't know. I'll do what I can. Thanks. I hope that you learned from this. Definitely make sure that you watch this before you do the checkpoint.